We are so happy to have Dr. Letitia Smith, who is the Director of Professional Development for the St. Louis Public School District. And we are super grateful to have her on the show today. And so, Dr. Smith, tell us what's going on in your life right now. We want to hear from you. What's going on?
Oh, it's a lot. So thanks for having me on the show. First and foremost, I was very honored when you gave me the invitation. So I always love talking about education, especially to other educators who can understand some of the things that we talk about.
Sure.
But currently in my personal life, I'm navigating raising two teenagers who oftentimes think they're raising me. I just moved. I've been a city girl all my life. And so recently in November, I actually moved to a very rural area. So I'm trying to navigate living in there. I've seen bugs I've never seen before. I think I've screamed more just being here these few months than I ever have in life. Because I'm like, what is that? And they're like, Mom, it's a tadpole. I'm like, well, how'd they get in the house? Like, it's all those things that I'm trying to learn to deal with and not be so scared about every sound that I hear outside my house now. But it is very beautiful out here. So I'm really enjoying the transition. Okay. But professionally, I'm an author. I've been writing children's books for a long time. So I'm really excited about my latest children's book that came out. I had an idea about trying to get people or teachers, educators, parents to really talk to kids about what's going on around these race relations we have in society and really understanding what is this movement called Black Lives Matter. And some kids wonder why they see these signs in yards that say Black Lives Matter and why people would need to know that. So my book and the People Carry Signs launched in January. And so It's been an opportunity to open up conversations in classrooms and with families and in communities around these race relations with younger kids. So I'm very excited about that.
That is super awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And we definitely want to get that information and we'll put it in the show notes so that if anyone wants to buy your book, then they can reach out to you personally so that they can get those books. Maybe they want to get it for their school. That's really, really cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Wow. And then professionally, we're just trying to navigate, we're back from the pandemic. We've actually been back in person a little longer than some of the other districts or surrounding districts. So, we've just been trying to navigate and still provide quality education for our kids who are coming back a little differently in some aspects. The pandemic had some social and emotional traumatic experiences for some of our students as well as for some of our staff. So really trying to teach both about work-life balance and really addressing some of those outside the classroom needs that have come back into the classroom. So really enjoying engaging and providing, quality professional learning to our staff that's, sustained, targeted, job embedded. So that's what we're doing right now.
I love it. So St. Louis Public Schools is an urban school system. And I would have to believe that the students of St. Louis Public Schools have been more highly impacted than, students that might live out in the suburbs or in rural areas. What have you seen and, what challenges are going on, not only with our students in St. Louis Public Schools, but with the staff?
Yeah, so, staff are humans too, their parents, their community members, it's already been said that our teachers don't make enough. So we can't say that our teachers are rolling in dough. So some of these aspects of when things shut down, a lot of our teachers had second jobs. So that was part of their income that was missing. So, they're having to navigate some of the things that some of our students are around, just having their basic needs met around paying their utilities and their bills and, really having to tap into some of these social programs that allow them to get rent assistance and, food. I mean, I know teachers who were, going to get free food and things like that because they needed to be able to have those things to help them get through and get over. So imagine you yourself going through some things and trying to navigate everything that COVID is throwing at you. And then on top of that, having to try to support your students who are going through things with their family and seeing their parents express emotions and frustrations that they may have not seen before. And so, and just the aspect of people being home, not only were the students in the school home all day when everything shut down, but you had teachers who have children themselves who were, forced, not necessarily forced, it sounds kind of bad to say it that way, but, had to navigate having their kids at home with them all day while they're trying to teach, while they're trying to get them on their computers and things like that. So even me as an educator, even though we were only home for a short period of time, I still had to try to navigate myself as well as make sure my students were being navigated with what they had to do in their classroom. So, they were still online. They still had work to do. They still had papers. They still had technology issues. And we're going through these same things at the same time. So, it was a little bit challenging. And some people just have not bounced back from, having those experiences and maybe some of the things that they had to do without. from
Yeah.
those experiences. So it has definitely been traumatic for a lot of our staff and for a lot of our students. So we're all just trying to come back and just, be a resource to each other, point resources to our students, point resources to our staff, have training around, trauma, noticing the signs, and then
Sure.
also providing some information and strategies around what you can do. Teachers, what can you do when you feel stressed? And what can
Yeah.
you help your students do when you see that your students are showing signs of being stressed and agitated? So it's definitely both ways.
No, I totally agree. And, I think the one thing that I hope has come out of this pandemic for the past 2.5, 3 years is the fact that how important it is to, celebrate and value our K-12 educators, because I think the pandemic has truly shown that it's very, very difficult for the US economy and the economy of the world as a whole to really operate if our children are not in, school, and if they're not learning and, growing and, making those relationships and those connections, learning how to, handle being in, environments with other young people. And yeah, I think that, that is really being highlighted with what you're saying right now about all the issues with students coming back from, being at home and their bedroom is their classroom. And,
Right.
They go to bed as a, fifth grader and wake up as a middle schooler, or they go to bed as a middle schooler and wake up as a high schooler.
Absolutely.
But they haven't had a chance to kind of grow socially and emotionally. So yeah, it's been a real challenge. We like to joke this year that we got all these ninth graders running around here, but they're acting like seventh graders, right?
Right.
And so a lot of that just has to do with them not having that chance to really kind of grow and mature during those years in the middle. So thank you for sharing that. You said that you are currently the director of professional learning for St. Louis Public Schools, which is one of the largest school districts in the state of Missouri. How long have you been there in that role, and what do you love most about your current position?
Yeah, I'm an old head now. So I came into that role in 2013. So I'll be celebrating my 10-year anniversary, soon, very soon. I love just about everything about that position. I get to meet and talk to so many people. I get to hear ideas and suggestions about how we can be better as teachers so that we can be better for our students. I love just trying to find new and innovative ways to help teachers to do what they do best. I know that we say we need professional development to help our teachers get better. I feel like we have some of the best that there is, but, we can all stand to be more distinguished in what we do, because we know the better that we are, is the better that we can be for our students. So I just get to see so many things. I'm always looking myself to see, what's most innovative, who's new, who's most relevant now, who can best, serve this topic for our staff. And so it gives me the opportunity to go out and see things and experience training myself. And like I say, this is something that I think we definitely need to bring back to the district. So I just love all those interactions. I love, teacher voice. They would definitely tell you when there's some training that they enjoyed, and they would definitely tell you when there's some training that they did not. They would tell you the speakers that they enjoy. They would tell you the speakers to never bring back to the district again. So, just getting all that feedback. And then when teachers really have that ability to turn the corner and they say, oh my gosh, I get this now. Like, I really love implementing this particular strategy, this particular material, this particular program. Turn a light on for them and they really feel comfortable. And we know that they're going to show out for our students. So that's what we want them to do. We want them to feel empowered to be the best that they can be so that our students can be the best that they can be.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I appreciate you saying all that, because you're right. Like, I mean, I've been in education a long time, and, there's nothing like really good professional learning or a really good speaker on a particular topic where you can learn and grow. But man, those speakers that are just like, oh my God, how much longer do I have to listen? But no, I get it. And I'm glad that you are very keen on that. And I'm sure that all the educators in St. Louis Public Schools appreciate, you bringing phenomenal people in front of them and making sure that people that are so phenomenal don't come back. So that's really cool.
Right.
Dr. Smith, sometimes our K-12 profession gets a bad rap. And here on the My K-12 Career Show, we are really focused on making sure that people around the world realize that the K-12 profession is the profession that makes all other professions possible. Why do you believe that the K-12 profession is such a noble profession?
Oh, so you're going to get me on my soapbox because, for one, education, as you've even said on your show, is the backbone to everything else. It is definitely the foundation, and I call it the feet of the body. Like, how can you walk and stand and get to where you need to be if you don't have feet? And so, when education lays the foundation for every other profession there is, it kind of, burns me up that we don't get the recognition that we deserve.
Sure.
And sometimes I even say, not that I'm trying to, downplay anyone who doesn't have or has not completed their formal education, but even now, the state has changed where even individuals who can be substitutes in the classroom, it used to be you had to have 60 credit hours from an accredited university to be before kids, but now you could take a couple of classes online with the state, then you could be before our kids. And I get upset about that because I say, I'm very educated. I have several certifications, several degrees. I went to school. I got my doctorate, but never could I walk in Mercy Medical Center here in St. Louis and say, can you scoot over real quick? I have a whole bunch of degrees. I'm going to help you perform this heart surgery right here because I know what the heart does. It would never happen. And
Sure.
so the fact that it seems like we can allow any and everyone to come into our classrooms and stand before our kids when we know that education and the foundation of education is so important to everything and everybody else, it just makes me a little upset. So, we cannot deny how important education is. And not until we start giving education the proper notoriety that it deserves will others understand that. I think people see the same thing. They see that anybody can be in the classroom. They see that there's, horrible teachers, and all those things make them feel like, oh, well, education can't be that important. And I wouldn't want to be a teacher, and I don't care about the teachers, and our teachers are not smart. But that's not true. So we just have to change our mindsets about the importance of education. And I just always say it's so backwards in society. Educators should be paid like athletes, and athletes should be paid like educators. But until that happens, then we're going to still be looking at like, oh, the most important profession must be the ones that get paid the most. And since we definitely know the educators not paid the most, I think that's why people think the way they do about, what we do.
Wow, very well said. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith, what are your short and long-term goals as a K-12 educator?
So short term is definitely what I'm doing now. I love what I'm doing now, but as a long-term educator, I definitely would love to be in an assistant superintendent position around either curriculum and instruction or definitely teaching and learning, which is the field that I'm in now. And then later on, probably within the next 10 years or so, I would love to be back. I did a small stint in higher ed, but I think it just wasn't the right time for me to be in higher ed. But now that I've been back in the K12 area, I feel like if I go back to higher ed and help work with pre-service teachers, I'll have a better foundation, a better understanding of what they need in the K12 area so that I could be a better professor for those pre-service teachers that would be coming into the classroom. So later on, I would love to be back at the higher ed level, working with pre-service teachers.
Oh, that's really, really cool. Have you worked as a professor before?
I have. I did very, very early on in my career. I started in middle school, and I decided, oh my God, middle school was not the area for me. I did high school for a bit, and then I went to Urban University, just a small, what they call it, open enrollment university. So, and work with those kids. But I was doing more of the remediational type learning at the time. So I just think, like I said, if I did it again, I want to have more of an impact on pre-service teachers because I feel like I know more of what it would take to engage them in the process of helping our students learn better.
No, that's really cool. I personally as well, really liked working with young adults that were in college. I had the opportunity actually when I worked in St. Louis to work at Harris Stowe State University with some students that were working and going to school to be a special ed teacher. So that was really, really cool. And I enjoyed doing it. I did it for 2 years while I was in St. Louis. And I can definitely see myself going back to that as well at some point in my career. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Let me ask you a question, Doc. Like, how do you maintain work-life balance? We always hear that, buzzword, work-life balance. How does that really work in the real world? You already mentioned that you have two teenage children who are students. What grade are they in?
My son will be a senior when school year starts, and my daughter will be a sophomore. So right now they're a freshman and a junior.
Okay, freshman and a junior. So I'm sure, in addition to school, they're involved in a lot of extracurricular activities and all that goes on with, just being a high school student. But then on top of that, you're also working a pretty demanding job. Like, how do you balance, making sure that you do what you need to do on your job, but at the same time providing, the support and the time for your children?
Yeah, it's definitely a struggle. Just trying to make sure you're meeting everybody's needs as well as your own. I can definitely say that I've gotten better at it. There was a time where I know that I was, denying things at home because I wanted to make sure I fulfill my responsibility at work, because at the end of the day, I knew that fulfilling my responsibility at work would allow me to make sure things were taken care of at home, if you understand what I'm saying.
Sure.
So I've definitely gotten better with the pandemic and so much focus being on self-care and making sure that we're taking care of ourselves so that we can take care of the others. They say on the airplane, put your mask on first and then
Yeah.
you assist the others. So, I really started kind of taking that to heart, because I am one of those people that I would burn the night out all. I would be at work with the janitors and they'd say, Letitia, you're still in here. And I'm like, I'm leaving right out, Miss Josie. I promise I'm getting ready to go now. And so I had to learn that as much energy that I was putting into work, I had to learn to put that into home, especially now that, life, circumstances. I'm a single mom now.
Okay.
And then I have teenagers. So those two dynamics alone, I had to make sure that I'm taking care of home emotionally, socially, physically, financially for my home. And then if I'm the best at home, then I can be the best at work. So I had to learn to reverse those roles. That work didn't make me better at home. Being better, more healthy and happy at home made me actually better at work. And so learning to balance those two dynamics, like I said, it wasn't easy. It's something that, we still struggle with. But I always try to make sure home is taken care of. My kids are older now, so they understand that, mom's going to be at everything she can. But sometimes if there's something pressing at work that I can't get out of, then I may not be able to make your softball game. I may not be able to make this football game. But you know that mom's cheering for you. You know that I'm your best supporter. So it also became having more conversations so they understand, there is such thing as a work-life balance. And sometimes I can't always be there to run you to the mall or pick you back up or get your nails done today. But you know that those things will always happen at the moment that I can do them. So yeah, it's a daily struggle. I don't think anybody has perfected it yet. And if they have, I hope they tell me. But
you need to write a book.
Daily, yeah, definitely write a book about it. But we definitely have to keep those things in mind about home and work on a daily basis and make sure that we're checking ourselves every chance that we get.
Very well said. Dr. Smith, if you had to do this all over again, if you could go back to being your kid's age and going into college, would you still have made the decision to work as a K-12 educator?
Absolutely. I tell people when they ask me that, I said the only other profession I can see myself being is Beyonce, but since she kind of has that all on lock, and I don't think that she needs an extra me around there. But yes, I have no regrets about being an educator. All the things I've been able to do, all the people I've been able to impact, as well as the people that have impacted me. There was people that I can still think about in my mind that I feel was phenomenal educators, and I'm like, I wonder if she would do this like this, and I think she would be proud that I did this. So, yes, it's definitely been a journey. And like I said, I'm still one of those people, I'm very biased about education. I feel like I said before, education is the foundation of everything else. And so I feel like, maybe I'm not going to be the one to make millions of dollars, but I feel like I've touched enough lives that somebody who does make $1 million someday, that I've had some part in them being able to reach that trajectory. So no regrets here.
No, that's really well said. I'm glad you brought up Beyonce, because I was just thinking, I'm sure Beyonce, if anybody sat down and talked with her, would talk about teachers and educators that really impacted her life as well and helped her to get to where she is today. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Dr. Smith, we are at the end of our interview, but I want to thank you for coming on the show. But before you leave the show, could you please give K-12 educators around the world some parting words of wisdom? Tell us how we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Absolutely. So if I had some words to say to all the educators, I would say, maintain the course. I know that it gets hard. As educators, we have so many people that want to dip in and tell us how to do our jobs, why we should do our jobs, the way we should do our job, and what materials we should use in doing our jobs that don't even have anything to do with education themselves, besides the time that, they went to school and graduated. And from then on, education wasn't really a focus. But stay the course. Remember your own why. Sometimes in relationships, we have to renew, things in our relationships. So sometimes if you have to take a time with yourself and renew why it was that you came to education, do that. Because even though it's so challenging to find educators nowadays, it's hard to, fill our teaching positions. We don't have a struggle with finding children. Children are still there. Children are still coming, and children still need good educators. So, just maintain the course, because our kids need us. So, and having said that, you said where to reach me. I'm on LinkedIn. I don't do a lot of social media, but I'm also on Facebook. I know people tell me that's antiquated. They're like, why are you not on Twitter? And I'm like, I can't keep up with all of that. So I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. And I do have an Instagram page under Dr. L.A. Smith 1. But don't be mad when you see there's only like 30 things on there from like having it for 5 years. I just don't get to it that much. But I'm very accessible by email. I answer all of my emails, letitia.smith@slps.org. And then you can also reach me on my website at drlasmith.org. So drlasmith.org.
Okay, well, we will definitely put all your contact information in the show notes, and we definitely appreciate you sharing about your book. And we definitely will provide a link for people to access and buy that book as well. So, Dr. Smith, again, I want to thank you for coming on the show. You were amazing, and I'm so grateful that you came on the show. And we're definitely going to keep the conversation going, and we look forward to having you on the show later on. So
sounds really great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Right, thank you.
Bye-bye.